This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hi there, I'm Henry Rosoff, and welcome to PIX on Politics Daily. I'm filling in for Dan Mannarino. A lot going on in New York City and New Jersey. We here at PIX 11 are actually gearing up for a big week of political specials out in New Jersey, hosting a lieutenant governor's debate and a New Jersey governor's forum next week. I tend to be more focused on the mayor's race side of things, and we're catching up with both Zohran Mamdani and Curtis Sliwa today, among the many candidates still vying to be the next mayor of New York City, perhaps stay mayor if you're Mayor Eric Adams. But we like to broaden topics here on PIX on Politics Daily. And the number one topic we see in polling in all of these races continues to be the economy, the cost of living, affordability. A lot of that falls at the intersection of groceries. And there's a new proposal in New York State, to sort of better regulate that, especially when it comes to delivering those groceries. And for that part of this story, we're going to bring in State Senator James Skoufis for our conversation today. And Senator Skoufis has an interesting bill that would sort of regulate or put some transparency, in your words, on groceries that get delivered. What is your proposal? What is your bill?
First, thanks for having me, Henry. And look, the bill is very simple. It's very straightforward. When someone in New York goes on to Instacart, let's say, I think the large majority of folks assume that the price for that produce, the price for that milk, the price for that bread is the same price as if they were to go to the store itself, the brick and mortar store. But the simple matter of fact is that almost all the time, it is not. And so what this bill very simply requires—
And it's never lower, right?
And it's almost never lower. I've never seen a single instance of it being lower.
Course.
This bill just simply requires that those platforms, Uber Eats, Instacart, et cetera, have a very significant disclosure on their landing page that the prices here are higher or the same, or if in that rare instance lower, but some in-your-face disclosure about what the prices are relative to the prices in the store. It is shocking, but I guess maybe not surprising that these platforms are spending literally over $1 million in lobbying trying to kill this bill. It has passed both houses. It now heads to the governor very shortly, and we'll see what she does.
But let me represent some of their position, because I was looking into this before we began our conversation. What they're arguing is effectively that this would cause prices to go up because it'd be labor intensive, both on the grocery stores end and on their programming end, to input these prices day after day after day. And I think we kind of understand that prices change at the grocery store, right? So why do you say that is not a valid argument?
Yeah, it is not only not a valid argument, it is totally disingenuous. It is an outright lie, and here's why. And the way these agreements work between, say, an Instacart and a Stop and Shop, a ShopRite, is the stores already send the prices to these platforms. The platforms don't make up prices. The stores already send prices to these platforms, and then the agreement calls for a markup, say 15%, 10%, 20%, and that's where the platform makes predominantly their money. Mm-hmm. And so the issue at hand here is that the platforms do not want to disclose the fact that the prices are almost always higher. The disclosure, let's be real, will not be it's lower, will not be the prices are the same almost all the time. They will almost all the time be the prices here are higher. And that may deter some of the customers at Instacart and Uber Eats to then go to the store. I don't want to pay 20% more than what's in the store. I thought the prices were the same. And so that's what this is about. The stores already send the prices. The disclosure will be, this is marked up, and the platforms are concerned they're going to lose business. That's what it's all about.
Let's talk about a scenario that I think these apps and even the grocery stores raise to an extent. What if the markup isn't quite correct? Is this bill punitive? Let's say we disclose, the price is $1 more when really it's changed to $1.50 more because a price changed over a couple of days. That would seem like a reasonable mistake. How would your bill handle that?
Yeah, and that would be a reasonable mistake. But when I said this bill was very simple and straightforward, I meant it at the start of this conversation. The original bill required a posting of the delta, the price differential for each product. And in fact, I think that is the responsible and transparent thing to ultimately do. But through negotiation to get it through both houses, the bill through both houses, we amended the bill. And so no longer does the price or the platform, the delivery platform, have to disclose the price differential? Again, just on the landing page, they must be transparent and demonstrate to their customer the prices here are higher. Period. Not for this product, it's $1 higher. For this product, it's 50 cents higher. Just generally on the page, the prices here are higher. They're marked up. And so
by a certain percent, the prices are 10% higher, just
a general
higher.
statement.
Okay.
Just a general statement, which I think is the bare minimum, the least that we can be looking for from these platforms. And so we don't even have to get into precision and whether, markups are exactly posted right. I think one day we should get there. People deserve to know what the markup is exactly, but that's not even what this bill looks to do.
And you said it's sitting on the governor's desk. I feel like we always get a flurry of these bills signed at the end of the year, so perhaps you don't know yet, but have you gotten any feedback from the governor's office?
I have not yet, but I know there has been a flurry of activity, not only between the lobbyists and these companies and the governor's office. They've sent letters and memos urging either a veto or a further watering down of the bill. And then there's certainly been engagement between the assembly sponsor and myself and the executive, us, sending sort of our arguments and rebuttals to the BS that is being put out there. And so I have not yet gotten any insight, but we'll know relatively soon.
So let's move on to another topic, because we really haven't caught up with you since you ran to run the DNC, the Democratic National Committee. The DNC is kind of handling sort of the ramp up to next year's midterms, of course. There's important elections this year in New Jersey and Virginia. And I feel like what Democrats are grappling right now mostly feels like the presence of Zohran Mamdani. And not so much him as a person or anything like that, but the fact that he represents a fairly far left wing of the party, but also represents generational change, which is something that you basically ran on when you wanted to lead the Democrats. How should Democrats, in your view, be handling a person like Zohran Mamdani?
Let's assume he wins in November. I think there's a very high likelihood that he wins in November. If that's the case, I think we would be foolish to be running away, running for the hills. At the end of the day, we are only successful as Democrats when we have a very large tent. And since Obama 2008, I'd say, our tent has been shrinking and shrinking and shrinking with every election cycle, to the point where this past presidential cycle, we didn't even have the support of the firefighters union or the Teamsters union and some of our traditional allies. We saw certainly hemorrhaging among some of our sort of core base races and ethnicities and demographics, young men within the Black community and Hispanic community in particular. And so we are only successful when we're a very large tent. And that includes an ideologically large tent. Now, of course, we are not the Republicans. We, our biggest decision when we wake up every morning and look ourselves in the mirror and start to brush our teeth is, what stupid red hat am I going to put on today? That's really what the 2025 Republican Party is. It is fealty to a single person. The Democratic Party, we embrace differences of opinion, or we should. And certainly—
about to say, I mean, one of the reasons that Trump is where he is and the MAGA movement is where it is because the Democratic Party has not necessarily been welcoming to everyone over the past, let's call it 12, 15 years.
That's right. And look, Zohran has animated a cohort of voters who we have struggled to animate as Democrats, broadly speaking. Infrequent voters, young voters, you mentioned generational change. We need to deal with the fact that the only three folks who have animated those types of voters in the past, let's say 10, 15 years, has been now Zohran, AOC, and Bernie Sanders. We have to sort of evolve as a party such that you don't have to be a democratic socialist in order to animate those voters. We have lessons to be learned by Zohran.
So what are let's get specific then.
Yep.
What are you represent a more purple, to use an insider term, Hudson Valley district. Plenty of conservative and moderate Democratic voters. What lessons are you learning? Are there policy lessons, messaging lessons? What are you bringing home right now?
Yeah, so Trump won my district by 12%. Zeldin won it by 14%. I don't live in some bubble. And so, I get to speak with, as you rightly noted, voters of all stripes. And the two lessons that I think Zohran employed very well, that I do my best to employ in my district every day, and this is not an ideological point because I'm a center-left Democrat and he is not a center-left Democrat. One, you've got to be authentic. People have a pretty good BS radar. They can tell when you're yesing them to death, when you're running around in circles, and they're sick and tired of politicians coming every couple of years and saying the same things to them over and over and nothing seemingly getting done. And the second is, and you hit it at the onset of this conversation, affordability, affordability, affordability. It is extremely hard to live in, never mind do well, in this state. And Zoran, whether you like the ideas or not, he's speaking to grocery prices. He's speaking to bus fares. He's speaking to higher education. I brought free bus fares to Orange County. This is not some crazy idea. Ridership doubled when I did that. I've carried a bill for the better part of almost 15 years that makes SUNY and CUNY tuition free. CUNY used to be tuition free just a couple of decades ago for the better part of a century. Not a crazy idea. And so, you know, I know people are trying to compartmentalize him.
And
but
it seems like there's some coalescing around universal child care.
That's right.
I feel like it's all I can get Mr. Mamdani or Governor Hochul to talk about when I try to get them to parse out their differences. They're like, well, universal child care, actually, we're going to do that together. Yep. So it's finding those areas of agreement.
It is. And look, you know, I fully expect he's going to have a lot of political capital and leverage if and when he wins. There's a budget negotiation that starts in January. I'd be shocked if he offers an endorsement in the governor's race before the budget is completed. He'd be crazy too, politically. And so I fully expect there's going to be something for all in the budget. I don't know what this something is yet, whether it's childcare for all or free buses for all, but he's going to get some kind of big win because the governor is going to want to deliver that win just literally weeks ahead of her own primary, never mind general election. And so it's going to be an interesting year next year, but he needs to be part of the coalition. Yes.
Okay. Well, Senator, we really appreciate your time. Don't have time to talk about even year elections, which I know you're passionate about. You mentioned to me before we got going, it's on the ballot in New York City this year.
That's
so
right.
We'll have more to say about that. But that'll do it for this edition of PIX on Politics Daily. For Dan Mannarino, I'm Henry Rosoff, wishing you a great day.